So looking at what we have on the screen, we have a vulnerable website. It's already made vulnerable. testphp.vulnweb.com. It's made vulnerable so as to test your, basically it's actually to test their scanner, but then we are going to use it, is what we are going to be using for the project, most especially to check or to test our skills, develop our skills at the same time. So when we say web application penetration testing, what do we mean? It's actually like, it's like a different area. Let's just use the word like a specialized area of penetration testing, on evaluating focused on evaluating the security of web applications. Now, what does it involve? It involves simulating attacks on web application. For our case, we are using this test.php.vulnweb. Yes, when we simulate attacks, like we act like the bad guys or like the hackers. And what's the essence? To find and exploit vulnerabilities that could be used by real attackers. You know for sure that we are not the real attackers, right? But then we are just like we are trying to be like them. Why? Um, so that we can be able to test these vulnerabilities and the likes of them. So for our case, we are actually studying. We're trying to like increase our or make our skills stronger or better. Yes. Before I proceed, Mr. Steve, please confirm if you can see everything on my screen. I already unmuted you, Mr. Steve.
Yes,
It's not.
we can see, we can see, and we can hear you, even though your voice is a bit low, but we can see the screen, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So just like we explained the other day, talking about penetration testing. First of all, number one thing we need to do, prepare and plan, like define the scope. Whatever I'm explaining here, I'm going to be relating it with your um with your project. You know, it's project one. So basically, this is like all about project one. So this is the page that we are going to be using. So for the meantime, let me stop sharing the screen. Okay, now you need to know what you are doing. Like that's like identify the objectives of like that project one. What are you doing? What do you intend to achieve? Right? You want to discover vulnerabilities. So to what point are you discovering the vulnerabilities? Okay, you want to tell us how to exploit the vulnerabilities. Okay, what next? You want to give us the recommendation. Okay, that's all. There are instances whereby like some companies can actually ask you to um test for like vulnerabilities, but then you may not be too concerned about how to like provide recommendations for those vulnerabilities. So that's what I mean by you need to like identify the objective of that WAP that you are doing. When I mean WAP, I'm talking about web application penetration testing. So moving to the next stage, which is what reconnaissance. We talked about reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is gathering of information. You could go passively, you could go actively. We know the difference between, okay, I would need someone to, I don't want to, this is something I've done before. So I want it to be this particular session, I want it to be a bit of interaction. Who is going to join me in the interactive session? Not like interaction per se. I would ask you questions and then you answer. Anybody confident enough? I'm waiting. Anybody confident enough? I would point at someone if no one is indicating to raise up the hand. Okay, let me point out someone then. Uh, okay, Mr. Jubril Adetunji, our aspiring cybersecurity expert. Yeah, please. I'm going to unmute you now. Jubril Adetunji. Okay. Can you hear me, Mr. Jubril? Hello, Mr. Jubril. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I'm not sure I'll be able to answer you right now. I'm currently in transit. I'm traveling, so this place is very noisy, sir.
Okay, okay, it's fine. It's all right. Okay, I would have to select another person. Mr. Godswill Chimina. Are you also traveling? Mr. Godswill. Mr. Godswill, are you there? Oops, Mr. Godswill is not there. Probably is also traveling. Call on the third person, Mr. Yusuf Raji. Can you hear me, Mr. Yusuf?
I can hear you. I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Daniel, so I'm going to allow you to be in the listing. So, Mr. Yusuf, you can just whenever I ask a, or Mr. Daniel also, whenever I ask a question, you can just like answer like directly so that we kind of like converse or we kind of make the class like an interactive class. When it gets to the stage by I need like only myself to do the talking, I would make it that way. So I said the second stage is reconnaissance. Can any of you tell me what reconnaissance is?
What I understand by reconnaissance is like watching some, like going to a place and looking at the whole issue. Like, how do I put it? Let's say you're looking at something from above. It's more like you are scanning and you are checking to see what it is in a particular area. To like now, if it's when you are doing reconnaissance for like an application, we are more like checking to see the weakness and the loopholes that an attacker might want to take advantage of.
Okay, thank you very much. So in other words, we can actually call it gathering of information, right? So it's basically gathering of information. So I think a better way to do it, I just pop out the question out there. Please immediately you know the answer, you just like contribute. So it should just be like that. So I don't like make it single or one-sided. So we have active, we have passive. We all know what active is. Active is when you are directly interacting with the target. Passive is when you do it indirectly. Yeah. Now moving on to vulnerability scanning. So we could actually go with automated scanning or we could use manual scanning. Can someone tell me like a very good tool that we can use for automated scanning? I already made mention of a couple of tools before. Yeah, please, anybody? Okay, Mr. Daniel. Mr. Daniel, please let's make it snappy. I'll call the first person, so just quickly tell me your answer. Once you once I unmute you, you unmute yourself also. Some of you may be talking and your mic is actually muted.
I said map, sir.
No, I don't like it's echoing. I actually asked for like a for something that's used for automated scanning. Yes, you can be correct if you say that, but you know we are talking about vulnerability scanning. That is a scanner that is actually going to test, that is going to check for vulnerabilities before we now go and do it manually. Remember when I said that the usage of automated tools? Okay, Babalola, let me hear from you.
Zap, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so we can use Zap, we can use Bob, we can use Nessus to perform automated scanning. So it just automatically detects common vulnerabilities like SPLI, XSS, and stuff like that. Also, it can help us to do code analysis. Now, after that is done, it will be wise for you to do what manual testing. What is manual testing? At that stage, you can perform something like fusing. You can even do parameter sampling. That's what I mean is that you modify the parameters within request to see if the application properly validates the inputs or whatsoever. So you can also do authentication testing. You can try to check the login mechanism to see if it is susceptible to brute force, susceptible to various kinds of things. Now, after that one has been done, the vulnerability scanning has been done. The next thing is what? Exploitation. Exploitation. That's exploiting the vulnerabilities. Can someone please explain to me what I mean by exploiting the vulnerabilities? Anybody? Okay, Mr. Chuka.
Good evening, sir. Happy birthday.
Thank
The
you very much.
exploitation is taking advantage of the vulnerability. So when you found a loophole, you now be able to um, either penetrate. It's like a penetration now. You're actually penetrating that loophole that you have found. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, he has said it perfectly well. Um, we found the loophole, we found the vulnerability. Now, the next thing is to what? Exploit it, use it to our own advantage to do whatever it is we want. So it could be SQL, like let's see if we can extract data, if we can bypass authentication. If it is XSS, let's see if we can execute JavaScript in the browser. If it is FLI, that's file, um, is it file inclusion or file inclusion, something like file inclusion, that's to include file now. Let's see if we can actually um execute files. Okay, LFI, not FLI, LFI, local file inclusion. So after that has been done, for the scope of this project, we can actually stop at that. So if you want to still, like, let me say you want to do post exploitation, you all right, maintaining access to implement backdoors and the likes of them. So no, we are not going to stop at that. There's also reports. We are going to document our findings. Can someone help me? Tell me what's the meaning of backdoors? Okay, Mr. Daniel.
Okay. I can say backdoor are like unauthorized means of entering into an application. For example, if normally if you want to log into a website, you have to go through the login page. But backdoor is like another alternative way of entering to that website without going through that login page. It's like a program created for you to enter into that website without going through that normal way of normal procedure.
Hmm. I am not too comfortable with that your explanation of backdoor. Any anybody that want to like modify what he has said? Okay, Babalola.
The backdoor, the way I can define it is that access an unauthorized uh, person accessing a particular site without the knowing of the owner of the site. That is what I can define as a backdoor. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Actually, what you said is a bit similar to what Mr. Daniel said. Both of you are correct here. But then I would have loved this explanation when you say something like this. Apart from the normal vulnerability that we expect here, apart from that, now when you want to, let me say you want to revisit that you want to revisit that site or that application or whatever it is. Now you see that route in which you are going to pass. You can call that like your backdoor. So basically, like a method in which like an attacker can use to gain unauthorized access to a computer system, which is similar to what you said, right? But then, like you've already carried out the attack at first, but then let's say you now want to, like, another time that you have revisited, instead of you to start the whole thing all over again, there is already a place that you have already put there, or there's already like a pathway for you to maintain persistent access to that compromised system. So the key word actually is that's what persistent access to that compromised system. Okay, now that we've discussed all that, what do I need in your, or what do we need? What do I need for your? Remember, we said the first step now, project scope. What do we need in that your project scope, apart from when you're preparing your report or when you are when you are carrying out this thing? What exactly do we need? Now, for the site, I'm going to share the screen now. Okay. Now, I'll just give one example, one very simple example. Now look at this site. For the site now, let's assume you can tell. Let's just assume you can tell that this particular search. Look at this input field for search input field. Let's assume you've done your findings. You can tell that this particular input field is what is vulnerable to SQLI. Now, what is the project asking you for? First is what? Your vulnerability. I'm talking about in the report. Your vulnerability. I don't know if the group leaders can be writing this down. Your vulnerability. After identifying the vulnerability, say you have SQLI at the input, you can always check online to see the way other reports are written, so that you can actually use your own, because it's going to have table of contents. It's going to be like a proper standard report. I will provide you with one after the class. You can actually follow that format. So you are going to assume that the organization you are reporting to is like Boniface organization or whatever. Now, the vulnerability. The next thing to do is what? Description of that vulnerability. Now that you've done SQLI, let's say you do is it A equals to A comma please can you see my screen? Mr. Steve, confirm that please, if you can see my screen and if you can hear me now.
Yes, I can see your screen. You wrote A.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Okay, so I was trying to say you describe that vulnerability. That's you tell us, okay, there is okay, you discovered SQLI at this search arts input field. Now you tell us how to carry it out. So after doing that, now you will now tell us the impact. That is, if this thing is successfully exploited by an attacker, what is he going to do? What are the impact? You know what I mean by impact? Now after that, you will now like give me I said vulnerability, description of vulnerability, impact. The fourth one is now the system or the link. Use the link. Take for example, now this is the page I found this at, right? I will just copy this link, Control C, then I'll put it there. I'm talking of this particular test PHP .vonweb.com/login.php. They're going to include the link so that I can easily see it. I can easily access it. Okay, yes, this person said if you go to this site, yes, I'm going to see it. Now let's click on this browse category. We have gone to browse category. So let's assume there is something I can see here, and I'll just copy this link, this particular one here. Then after that, you will now send like a screenshot to show that truly this thing can actually work. Take for example, you input the code here and you give me the response. Then last one is what? Recommendation. What do I mean by recommendation? Okay, we've discovered that it is susceptible to SQLI. What are the recommendations? Like what can we do to curb this, right? Okay, that's just that. Now we are going to take it practically. I'm going to do as if the assignment is given to me, but I'm not going to make it as explicit as possible. I'll just try as much as possible. What I'm trying to do now is to help you as much as possible, so that when you're doing your own, you're not going to face like too much problems, right? Okay, now stop the recording now.